What's up guys, back to another Konosuba video, and in today's video we are going over the Reroll tier list. This is not a tier list of who I think is the best. Well, sorta, it kinda is. I pretty much just went over what characters are really good and what characters are not really good. Most of these characters are based off of if they're good or not. Some can somewhat fall into the category of new players aren't gonna like these characters because you have to build them up for them to be good, but for the most part this is how good I think the characters are, and then of course how valuable they are to a new player. So for example, I'm going to go over each of the tiers and then slightly talk about the units in them, but I didn't want to like build it on camera because that would actually just take so long, and I attempted to record that and I look over, I'm halfway done, it's already like 40 minutes. So I was like, yeah, maybe we just make it first. But anyway, so the Z plus characters, there's nothing there because I have another tab where I'm going to show you the limited characters that are out right now. I included the Halloween and Christmas units because there is going to be a part 2, because it literally says part 2, funny enough, because the text is glitched, but there should be a returning limited character part 2, and it should have the Christmas and Halloween units. I don't know what other characters are going to be on it because they're still missing 2 units unless they just have 2 units less than the part 1 banner, and every other limited character has like 4 characters overall, like the school units or the swimsuit units. So I'm not too sure who they're gonna have there, but I just include the Halloween and Christmas units anyway because they should be there. Other than that, let's get into the tiers. The Z tier is probably the characters you are going to aim for the most. These characters are Veneer, because he's really good, and the 3 resistant shreds units. I think Miru is probably the best one out of the group, but Melissa and Chris are also really good. You really only need 1 technically. Of course, it's best to have all of them, because obviously if you're doing Earth Arena, you're going to want Melissa, because Melissa will probably hit a bit harder than the other 2 because she has the type advantage, but they pretty much all feel about the same for doing what they need to do, which is Red Shred. S is units that are really good and are used often. Funny enough, I actually only have 1 of these units because the game hates me, but I've seen enough play to know that they are very good. Rin and Amy are a bit old, so there's a bit to argue with putting them in A, but I think that Yin and Mia are good enough to warrant them in S. These are characters that you also would want to go for, but they're not like the highest priority. If you get 1 of those and 1 in Z, that's pretty good. Next up is A. A is pretty much just going to be your characters that you either have in the back line or they feel some kind of niche damage dealer. Like if you're Iris or Cosma, you're there because you just need a slot for a damage dealer. Let's say, for example, you have 3 characters in the front and you need a rear 1 or a rear 2 character. These characters would probably fill that niche, or in certain cases like Leah, she probably is up front taking a couple hits. Whatever it may be, these characters are in A for that reason. There's not good enough to be in Fs, but they are pretty good, and these characters are used pretty often. B. B characters are characters that you'll use occasionally. I've actually used the Arus on this list a lot, along with the Cielos. Just if I'm missing a character and I don't have someone in A who does it better, or I'm just needing a character in general. A good character, funny enough, is Mitsurugi. Back before I had Veneer, I ran him on my Earth team because I didn't really have anyone too much better. But yeah, these characters are mostly just your general run-of-the-mill. I don't have the better characters, so they're good enough, or you know, I have lack of characters, so I'm using these characters. Next up is C tier. C tier is characters who I don't believe they should be in Dust tier, which funny enough, there's 1 Dust in C tier, ironically. These characters have some use, but they're overshadowed hard. Like for example, the Cecily, I believe it's the window one. She has a tier 1 agility buff for the team and she heals, which isn't terrible, but when you have healers such as Legendary Aqua or Arabian Amy, you know, she kind of falls a little flat and her ults are pretty stinky. Then you also have units such as Chris, like the one Chris. she's not a terrible unit, but considering we have a bunch of good wind DPSs like Eyes, and funny enough, Idol Cosma, who just does her job but way better of slowing down the enemy, and then he has Red Shred, she doesn't. She is an OG unit. Stuff like that will hamper these units down. And then we have the Dust Tier. These are characters that if you pull them, you will probably never, ever, 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 ever use them. Funny enough, I don't think I've actually used any character on this list besides Wiz. And I think PJ Megami once when the game first started. All of these other characters I've actually never used once, just because there's a 3-star that's better than them. Funny enough, some of the characters in C tier have a 3-star that's better than them. Once you get into B tier, it's, you know, a little iffy. Some 3-stars are better than the people in B tier, but for most of it, if you're in D tier, you're pretty much just a fake 4-star, as unfortunate as that is, especially for characters like Dust. And Dust is pretty much just always in this tier because he's just not good. Okay, so briefly one of these characters. If you have any questions about where I place the character, go ahead and leave me a comment and I'll try to get back to that. Been a little bad with replying to comments lately, I do apologize. So if this video goes live and you see I commented on your posts, that's probably why. But anyway, yeah, let me know if you have any questions, or like, oh, why is this character at this tier, yada yada. I'll give you my best explanation as long as the YouTube comment section allows me to do that. So let's go ahead and show the limited characters. These limited characters are the legendary characters, the Idol Megami and Cosma, the Christmas Wiz and Darkness, the Valentine's Iris Cecily, the Halloween Iris and Yun, and then I believe there is one other one, unless I'm missing someone. Legendaries, Cosmas, Wizzes, the New Year's. Okay, so I put Legendary Aqua, Darkness, and Megami in Z+. They're pretty much who you're going to be shooting for when you're rerolling. Megami is maybe a bit too high. If ReZero was on here, Megami would probably not be in Z+, but that Megami is de facto. Is that the word I'm looking for? Anyway, she's pretty much the best Megami. There is some room to argue the ReZero one. However, whenever the type disadvantage thing with Arena comes out, ReZero is going to take a huge blow because she won't be as good as she was in her own element. Plus, the Legendary Megami is just really good for that Crimson Demon buff, so you're going to want that in Z+. Then Darkness is just easy mode for Dungeon, and she's really good light DPS. And then Aqua is just by far probably one of the best units on the global version, if not the best, debatably, just because of how good and versatile is. If you can use her, you pretty much always use her, unless she's like, you know, off element or has an element disadvantage. But even for that, people still run her anyway because she is that good. Then in Z is Legendary Cosma and Idol Cosma. Idol is obvious, he has Red Shred. Legendary Cosma because he's an incredibly good lightning DPS. Then in S we have both Wizzes. Wiz is a really good water DPS, but she has to compete with the water trio. So that's why she's a tier lower than the Cosma, even though they essentially do the same thing, which is damage in their element. They have Christmas Wiz, who is still really good. She has the gauge up, does good damage for fire. Of course, her ults, as always. She is unfortunately fallen off a bit from her glory days, but she still deserves an S, as she's still used a lot. Then in A, we have Megami, Aqua, and then 2 Irises. Irises are with the rest of the Irises, which are pretty much you're in the back line, you come out, you do your damage, yada yada, you have a heal if you need it. Aqua is here because she has a nice, I believe it was, let me double check, a agility up. I actually don't have this Aqua, unfortunately. Yeah, no, she has a tier 1 agility buff and a large party heal, and then she has a 20% ultimate gauge charge. Very nice. And she's Earth. Earth definitely was missing those crazy units, but now that we have Veneer, Aqua might not see as much use, but I still believe she deserves A. Then Megami is actually pretty solid. Let me grab her real quick. She has the self tier 3 magic attack buff. Very, very nice. So her explosion will do a bunch of damage. And then she has a single target above 70% HP attack. Very nice. The Idol one has the same kit, by the way, but considering she has to compete with ReZero Megami. Kinda hurts her a bit, I'm not gonna lie. It's a little rough. Also, it doesn't help that there is no other Earth Megami, so the is it just New Year's? Okay, yeah, it is just Caesar. I'm thinking the Yukata ones because they have like the same-ish getup. But anyway, the Earth one doesn't have any competition, where the Light one has literally the first slash second best Megami to deal with. So fortunately, she is down lower. Of course, you can't get her anymore, which really does suck. But doesn't change the fact that having two single targets is also not helping her whatsoever. Then there's Yin Yin. Yin Yin is still usable and she's good, but there's just a lot more characters who just do crazy stuff. She has a low chance to poison, and then a party tier 1 agility buff. Definitely can have some use out of her, but not as much as you did back in the day. And then in C tier, we have both of, almost said both, because Cecilia looked like darkness for a second. We have darkness. She misses, at least she buffs. Still not a good unit. Cecilia is okay, but there's just a million better healers, especially if you're Aqua. Aqua's just way better, and they're both water. And if you're re-rolling, why the hell would you go for Cecilia over Legendary Aqua anyway? And then that'll wrap it up. There is no limited character that is in D yet. Darkness almost got there, but the fact that she buffs is pretty nice. Other than that, that is pretty much the tier list. Use this for when you're rerolling now, by the way. If you're rerolling in the future when the legendary banners or the limited character banners are not here, then you would go off of this. That's why I made two different ones. Just pick whatever one you need. Do all that good stuff for when you reroll. I will make another reroll guide when Overlord drops, and then when Christmas, well, I guess I should say Legendary Chris, Christmas, get it? Haha. Anyway, when those two drop, I will be making a updated one of these. Let me know if you have any comments or concerns about this, and I'll get to it. And by the way, just want to say out, this is my opinion. If you have anything like, oh, well, I think Dust should be in B, yada yada, understandable. I have not used all of these units, but I have, looked over their kit and compared it to other units I have used, and I've seen, people use them on YouTube or just in general to base my consensus off of. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe for more Konosuba content, and I will catch you all in the next video.